Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever made a deal, maybe even just a simple handshake agreement, and wondered, is this thing actually legit? What happens when an agreement is flawed, right from the very beginning? Well, today, we're diving deep into a really fascinating corner of contract law to figure that out.
So let's just start with a big question right up front. Is every single agreement you make automatically enforceable by law? Well, the short answer is a big fat no. Just because two people agree on something doesn't mean it has any legal muscle behind it. And that, right there, is where our story begins.
You see, according to the Indian Contract Act of 1872, a flawed agreement can have one of two very different fates. I want you to think of it like a fork in the road. One path is a complete dead end. The other offers a kind of escape route. These two paths are known as void and voidable.
So what's the actual difference here? It's huge. A void agreement is unenforceable from the get-go. It's like it never even existed in the eyes of the law. A voidable contract, on the other hand, actually starts out as a valid working agreement. But, and this is the key, one of the people involved has the legal option to back out. They hold all the cards. All right, let's head down that first path, the dead end. This is the path of void agreements. A void agreement is, for all intents and purposes, dead on arrival. The law says it has zero legal effect, and there's absolutely nothing anyone can do to bring it back to life. So, what makes an agreement a total non-starter?
Well, one of the biggest reasons is that the agreement is just fundamentally against the public interest. The law has this concept of public policy, and if a deal would harm society as a whole, the legal system just won't even recognize it.
So what does that actually look like? Well, the law will cancel out any agreement that tries to limit someone's basic freedoms, like trying to stop an adult from getting married or preventing them from working in their chosen profession. It also protects your right to go to court, so any deal that says you can't sue is void. Oh, and simple bets or wagers? Yeah, those are legally unenforceable too.
Okay, so it's not just about public policy. An agreement can also be void if it's built on a foundation that's super shaky, unclear, or just plain impossible. If the very core of the deal is a mess, well, there's nothing for the law to enforce. And get this example is straight from the Act itself. An agreement to sell 100 tons of oil is void. Why? Because it's completely uncertain. What kind of oil are we talking about? Olive oil? Crude oil? Motor oil? Without that crucial detail, a court has no idea what to enforce, so the whole agreement just means nothing.
Let's try another one. Picture this. Two people, Ajay and Ben, make a deal. Ajay agrees to sell his prize-winning horse, who he calls Thunder, to Ben for a specific price. Everything seems crystal clear, right? Specific horse, specific price. What could go wrong?
But here's the twist. What if, at the very moment they were shaking hands, the horse Thunder, the entire reason for this agreement, was already dead, and neither Ajay nor Ben had any idea? Is there still a deal?
Nope. In this case, the agreement is totally void. This is a perfect example of what the law calls a bilateral mistake. Since both of them were wrong about the most essential fact, that the horse was actually alive, the law says a real agreement never even came into being. It's just another dead end.
Okay, let's hit rewind and go back to that fork in the road. It's time to explore the second path. This is the path with the escape hatch, the world of voidable contracts. These agreements are not dead on arrival. They start out valid, but they have a hidden flaw that gives one person a legal way out. And here's the absolute key to understanding voidable contracts. It all comes down to consent. A contract becomes voidable when one person's agreement, their consent, wasn't given freely. The deal itself might look fine on paper, but the way someone was convinced to sign on was fundamentally unfair.
So what makes consent unfree in the eyes of the law? Well, it usually boils down to four main things, from outright threats to sneaky tricks. You've got coercion, which is about force, undue influence, which is abusing a position of power, fraud, which is just straight-up lying, and misrepresentation, which involves saying things that aren't true. Let's start with the most obvious one. First up is coercion, and this one is pretty much what it sounds like. It's when someone is forced into a deal against their will. We're talking direct threats, intimidation, any kind of unlawful act to get them to agree. Plain and simple, it's consent given under pressure.
And get this is a really fascinating and pretty powerful detail from the Indian Contract Act. The law protects free consent so much that even threatening to commit suicide to pressure someone into a contract is legally considered coercion. That makes the entire contract voidable by the person who was put in that impossible position.
So what's the game plan here?
The contract is actually valid and totally binding until the person who was wronged decides to do something about it. They have the choice. They can either decide to go through with the deal anyway, or they can rescind it, which is just a legal way of saying cancel. And if they do cancel, they just have to give back anything they got from the deal. The power is completely in their hands.
Okay, we have explored both paths, the dead end and the escape hatch. So let's put it all together and look at the critical differences, side by side. Honestly, this is the main takeaway you need to remember. This table really breaks it all down, but pay close attention to the core issue. For a void agreement, the problem is with the deal itself. It's illegal or impossible or just too vague from the start. But for a voidable contract, the deal could be perfectly fine. The problem is with how one person's consent was obtained. That single difference changes everything that follows.
So the next time you're about to shake on a deal, whether it's big or small, just take a second. Ask yourself, is this path clear? Is the agreement fair? And did everyone agree freely? Or is there a hidden flaw that could lead to a legal dead end, or maybe give someone an escape hatch they can use later? Knowing the difference, well, it can save you a world of trouble. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.